This is Behind the Scenes Oklahoma.
Hey everyone, welcome to Behind the Scenes Oklahoma. I'm your host, Anna Berry, and today we have a special guest, someone who's been making media in our state's creative community for quite some time. So happy to welcome Stevie Fernandez, Full Credit Media, and the filmmaker behind this brand new feature comedy, Forgotten Fortune. Lots of F's in there, Stevie. Nice to see you.
Also, murder mystery comedy. That's
Ooh.
another way I like to say it.
Murder mystery comedy. And you've got some pretty well-known actors, quite the cast you've put together, Lou Ferrigno, Shoop, and Jimmie J.J. Walker. So I want you to tell us a little bit about the film and how you got these great actors involved.
Well, we were looking for some old people, and they kind of came up. And it is a movie that's about dementia and onset dementia, as a lot of us, I'm just turned 64. I guess that's what I am. My wife put that on my birthday cake in September, a 6 and a 4. And I made a new best friend because one of my friends, I was like, what is 6 and a 4? What does that mean? And they said, oh, that means you're a 10. So I like their math. So, and you have my parents, my dad is 85 now, and my in-laws are in their 80s as well. And one of my father-in-law is kind of has some onset dementia and been diagnosed with that. And you start to, when you have something and you start talking about it, you find out so many other people have that going on in their lives as well. And we started thinking about, how people are cared for when that time happens. And when we saw this one, my dad actually used to be a mailman years ago. And what if, and one time my grandfather got lost driving around in town and he couldn't figure out how to go home. And that was before cell phones. And luckily they were able to get him help and he got home. But what does that feel like? What is that like? We thought, how can we share that feeling with all of these families who might be going through some of this, and maybe give them a little insight and maybe a little bit of humor on how to take an angle on it. And we created our main character, Brian Franks, who is onset dementia, former occasionally goes out on his old route because he forgot that he's retired, and he witnesses a murder. But of course, nobody believes him because he's got this onset dementia. Something else that he also did was invest a lot of his retirement into, you remember the GameStop thing, well, ours is Game Shop. So he invested in Game Shop, where he ends up earning over $2.5 million, but he can't find the paperwork to the bank information where he had put the money. So nobody believes him about that either, except his two closest friends, who end up being Lou Ferrigno and Jimmie J.J. Walker. That's not their names in the movies, but you recognize them that way. And actually, our executive producer, Dr. Mark Sherwood, had a relationship with Lou and had brought Lou in for a speaking engagement several months ago. And we talked a little bit about this idea, and he said, oh, I'd love to read the script. And he did, and he wanted to be in the movie. And because I had written two best friends in for Brian, we thought, wow, who else could we get that's from that time period that people would remember? And I happened upon interview with Jimmie J.J. Walker when he was doing his stand-up act in Las Vegas, and he was talking about how clean his show was and how important it was for him to do family-friendly entertainment. And I thought, well, let me reach out and see if I can't talk him into it. And he read the script and loved it and wanted to do it, and right away was on board. And casting bigger names, though, is a little bit different than your folks that you have close by, like yourself, that you see, or we see fairly, actively see each other every now and then. And when we talked to Jimmy's agent, they said, yeah, he wants to do it. And I said, okay, well, we'd like to talk to him. Can we talk to him about the part? And they said, oh, he'll just show up. And I was like, oh, what do you mean he's going to show up? And so that took several weeks before we could talk to him. And
He didn't just show up?
No, he didn't show up.
It's funny. Well, the big names are great, but I also love the hardworking actors and giving them an opportunity to shine, like Brian Shoop. He's one of those actors that you can watch a series, you can watch a movie, and you're like, that's him. the professor, that's him.
Right.
Cop,
Yeah.
that's him. I mean, he has such a iconic face and voice, and he's such a talented actor, and I'm so excited to see him in this lead role, and a role that is meaningful to so many people. I think dementia, unfortunately, is something that touches all of us, like you said, and to see it portrayed in a film with a little bit of humor and a little bit of a mystery, that's what movies are for, to kind of take us out of our everyday world and see through the eyes of someone else. So I'm so excited to see this.
Well, when you see people in your life that have been your uncles, your aunts, people that have been there for you, I remember they all showed up for my baseball games or my football games, and we had family get-togethers. That was a big part of my family growing up, that almost every week we got together. And my dad came from a family that had 8 siblings, and my mom had 4, so it was always big get-together when we were together. But you see them, my uncles, I remember they would race us to see who was the fastest. You always wanted to beat your uncle. You wanted to get to that point that Uncle Junior was the fastest. We could beat him, then we're a man. And as we age, we all start to ache and can't run and can't do the things we used to do. And it's in a way, it's a little bit sad because these were our heroes growing up, and you see them start to age and what age does to you. So this is kind of my way of a great tribute to those people in our lives that have given us so much and helped make who we are.
And I know that you shot it in Sepulpa in a house.
Right.
And did you have other locations, or was it all in Sepulpa?
We shot one thing at Dr. Mark and Dr. Michelle, our executive producers, the Sherwoods, at their Functional Medical Institute. We shot a scene there, which is in Tulsa. But pretty much the rest of it was in Sepulpa. We actually had 3 houses on that neighborhood. And a guy that Michael Strube, he owned all the homes, he and his wife. They were so kind to let us rent them from them to shoot all the various scenes that take place in the movie, because these neighborhood friends are all living in the proximity where they've been for 30, 40 years. And it was really great to be able to shoot it there and do that, because it's always convenient, for small budget films. It'd be great if I could afford to build out a big set inside of one of these sound stages, and nothing ever gets touched and you don't have to worry about anything. But that gets a little costly, and we're working into budgets. And as you mentioned, that we do use a lot of local actors that have great talent. And it's part of my mission, as I've been working on these movies and creating them now for the last 8 years, is that we have some great talent right here in our own backyard. And it's hard to get people to accept this just yet, but we're working on it, because when you go watch a Major League Baseball game, it's great. Tickets cost $75 probably for the cheapest ticket, and you get really entertained by the athleticism. But then you can still go to a Drillers game and spend probably $15, get a great seat, and watch some upcoming stars. And when I used to run Radio Disney, I noticed that we had a kid group that we called the Tulsketeers. And it was made up like of 6-year-olds through early teens. And they were really, really talented. I mean, we would be performing at a mall and people would come out of the stores to hear these kids sing. That's how good they were. And with the actors that we have in the area, I feel the same about that. And it's when you go to a show that comes to town, if you go see Wicked or something, you're not seeing the same stars that performed on Broadway. You're seeing their third or fourth understudies or their travel team or something like that, but you're still paying $125 a ticket. Whereas with our movies, like at our premiere that's happening on Friday, December the 5th, it's just like a donation of $10 or $15, and you get a dinner and a movie. And Lou's going to be there along with most of the other cast members too. And so we make it a big event so that people can walk away and feel that, they did something special. They helped something special. They helped some actors continue to grow their craft and hopefully be something that they can watch more. That's why we have that OK Movie Stream where we're out seeking out different independent filmmakers like ourselves to give them a place that they can stand out from, not have to compete with the Formula Ones and the F1s and other great big movies like that, but have a place of their own to be big stars.
We'll talk a little bit about that. What is the OK Movie Stream?
OK Movie Stream is it's like our Netflix. We've created what is a website, and then we have Android TV, iOS app, Android app, Roku channel, and you can go on there and you'll be able to find one of our distributors let us have a bunch of public domain older movies just so we have a lot of content as we start to replace it with independent films. And we are kind of honing in on the region where we have Oklahoma and the states that touch Oklahoma. And there are films like from friends of mine that in Dallas, Brian Shoop made a movie a few years ago. It's on there. There's a documentary that one of my neighbors, I didn't even know until I met his brother. And he had shot, and it's about his brother recovering from having some alcohol and drug issues, and he's training for a triathlon throughout the movie. And so that's on there. We produced ourselves several podcasts like yours. One is called OK Movie Stars, that are a lot of the people that have been in our movies and others that are just in the region. And where I'm doing interviews, we have a podcast my wife and I do called Being Grandparents. It's kind of a comedy thing, and we recently did our first live comedy stage show, and that went really well. And so we offer a lot of those different elements on there that people can either subscribe to or rent movies. Nicole Miller, she's a comedian here, and we shot one of her shows, and it's on the site too. So
So
there's
what if
lots of different
I have
ways.
filmmakers who have made movies here? Can they submit for their movies to be airing on OK Movie Stream?
Absolutely. We have those that are, we try to keep it pretty family friendly, so we might have to bleep words if
Yeah,
there's
so
that
no
kind of
horror
content.
films or okay, that might cut out a few.
But that might, maybe because there is a need for that, that we can just place it somewhere and show that, that it has content that that you want to, it has some explicit content that you might want to be aware of. And that's probably a place we need to grow because there are a lot of those out there. And we would probably, we have, our is doing a revenue share split where if people rent it, then, they get a majority of it. I think it's like 70-30 on the split, just kind of helps us pay for everything that keeps it going. And then we have our movies and want to keep growing and bringing in more content. We have student films, shorts, just whatever it
Great.
is that can get people to, you know, take a look at it and start to applaud, because you never know when you're going to find the next Steven Spielberg that might be right next door.
You never know, and it's really helpful to have something that organizes it because I'm always, yeah, what can I watch that is local or someone just made it here or I know someone in it and where do you even go? So this is a nice I look forward to discovering more and also talking to my community about that so we can hone in on here's where you go when you want to watch something either shot in Oklahoma or made by Oklahomans. And I think the time is now. I mean, Stevie, I know you've been doing this for a while and you've been making movies for a while and media in many different ways, but I think it's really interesting how the spotlight is on us in Oklahoma. So I want you to talk a little bit about that. You've been in this industry for a while. You've seen it
Mhm.
change. How is it evolving? Where are we now?
Well, it's changing in the sense that, there was a time when local TV stations put on kids shows. There were a few shows here. I mean, there was a show, I can't remember the name
Uncle
of it.
Zeb.
Uncle Zeb, my wife was on there, and her mom gives her a lot of trouble because she was picking her nose when she was on all dressed up and was on Uncle Zeb. And so it was a time when that would occur, and it was really great for the community, I believe, because they had a chance to have their foot in Hollywood, so to speak, and see how it was made and how it was done, and appreciate the fact that, and I always think of it like There's so many restaurants that I'm sure you've been to, and when I used to do that show, Explore Tulsa, we would go out and find all these mom and pop restaurants, and it was really great food, and some of it was really fun, and you could learn about the people in a different way. Like, one of the owners, before we started recording, I was talking to him, and he turned out to be, I said, and he was dressed up in typical what you would expect an Asian food cook to look like, and I said, Have you been, a cook all your life?" He goes, "Oh, no, I was a fighter pilot in the Vietnam War on the good side." He was on the good side. But, and I think to look at him, because he was just a small guy, and he told the story about getting shot down once. And I said, "Oh, did that end your," he goes, "No, they just put me in another plane and stuck me out there."
The
And,
stories.
and yeah, and to know that he's right here in Tulsa cooking meals and making people that his patrons happy with what
Was
he
this like
serves them.
Riley's or Bin Lee's? Was that part of that Vietnamese restaurant family group?
Well, I don't think it's at, I wanna say the restaurant is, like, at 91st and Yale.
Yeah, I think that's Bin Lee's. I know the
Yeah, he
place.
he does, like, vegetarian kind of,
Yes, the seitan meat
right.
alternative, and he's got this really nice pompadour hair, and he's
Sorry?
short, good-looking Vietnamese older gentleman.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know who that is. Yeah.
and he's like, just has this coolest story, and it was so great to be able to tell it. And I know that there are so many other when we did Explore Tulsa, I think we did over 1,500 little stories, and those folks have talents and skills in their business, and us as creators do too. And the advent oftentimes I'll go and speak to students, and I tell them all the time, because I felt this way too at one time, was that, well, I don't have the right equipment, I don't know, I can't tell this story, I can't do this, I can't do that because I didn't have this or that or the other. And the reality of it is that every time you do something, if you have the frame of mind to do so, it's going to get better each time. And I tell them, I said, no matter what you have, your phone, if you have a camera, just go shoot little shorts and post it on YouTube and talk about it. Because the more you talk about it, the more people you find that are involved, just like you doing the show and you going out and talking with other folks that are building the industry here in Oklahoma. And because of the internet, we can make our own networks now. I had a little, before COVID, we had started like an ESPN for local high schools, and we were streaming Tulsa Public School and Cassia Hall for football games. And we had so many people that were grateful that now that their parents who lived in other states could
Mm.
watch the grandkids
Oh,
or the
yeah.
nieces and the nephews, and we were doing that with sponsorship, and it was going over so well. And plus, we would take high school and college kids who thought they wanted to be into sports broadcasting and
Mm.
give them the opportunity to do play by play or run the cameras or the switchers that we were using. And we weren't using like really expensive equipment to do it. We just figured out a way to do it, and to do it well enough to where we could show off all these kids. And kids would be telling us that it was a way for coaches to see them that may not actually get a chance to see them, so that they could offer them scholarships or give them an opportunity to play at a collegiate level. And so when we did that, it worked pretty good until COVID hit, and then it kind of all shut down. And
Yeah.
it was quite an effort to put together, so I didn't continue it and moved more into making films. And so, I think that, it's just a matter of finding content and supporting it. 'Cause I was listening to Judd Apatow. Do you know who he is? He was on with Conan on Conan's podcast called Conan Needs a Friend or something like that. And he said that in the industry itself, comedy movies weren't doing as well as they had in the past, because now everybody can pick up their phone and they can watch a 60 or 2-minute long comedy thing of somebody falling on the front doorsteps with their Ring camera,
Yeah.
and putting all that. And so people are getting handed comedy all the time with their phone. But I still believe that, you can create good comedy, and maybe that's what you're out creating, is people having fails. But it's still, a way for somebody who can learn how to create something that's entertaining and then get the number of views they need to make this a business for them.
Well, the business of show business is what we're all looking for. How do we make a business out of it? But one thing I know, and I think what's I find interesting in today's world where you're right, we are being bombarded with shorts of all kinds. And I hate it. It's overwhelming. I'm finding myself really drawn to characters I believe in, characters that I love to hate, characters I hate to love. And that is one of the blessings of like Taylor Sheridan's series, right? You
Right.
get so involved with these characters, you are rooting for them. And I think that is bringing us back to the screen, whether it's on our couch at home or it's the big screen. I don't care about the big Marvel movies or any of those big entertainment pieces anymore. I want
Right.
characters with meaning, characters that I can relate to. Like I said, characters that I love to hate or hate to love. And I hope that we bring some of those back to Tulsa and Oklahoma to shoot some series here, right? I think that's where a lot of those characters can be, but they can also be in features like your murder mystery comedy you mentioned as well.
Yeah, I think I was watching over the weekend, the 30th or 40th anniversary of Everyone Loves Raymond.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw that yet, but, you look back on the characters as they were highlighting different episodes and scenes from the episodes and how much you can connect with one of the characters or even more of the characters and situations in your life. And you're right that you do start to, because sometimes when I drink my coffee in the morning, I'll start an old series that maybe I didn't watch every year or every season, and then I'll start to catch it. And then when I'm done and I'm through, I feel like I'm not seeing somebody at work, that I used to connect with. And so it's series are great. And I think that one of the things that I always used to hang my hat on is that I learned how to tell a story.
Mhm.
And I believe that that's one of the strongest elements with whether it's shorts or a series or a movie is that you are able to tell a story. And I believe that we all have at least a really interesting 4 to 5 minute story. And how do you put it together so that people want to watch it and it connects, as you mentioned, with them so that maybe they want to go to that guy's restaurant now because we told his story a little bit. And
Mhm.
maybe they go look it up and find it on Explore Tulsa and watch it and say, "Oh, I'm gonna go check out that place," and his food is really great, and,
I love
whereas
that. And with that, you need to go see the giant leg lamp in Chickasaw. I don't know if you saw my last
that
podcast. A filmmaker, this guy Reagan felt the gut instinct like, I think I need to make a documentary about this crazy project in his hometown. And then he did. And so that's a
yeah,
great example of what you just said. Well, let's talk about this Friday. I know this is a big premiere of the film, and it's going to be at the Renaissance Hotel, which is a lovely hotel. So tell us a little bit
yeah.
about this premiere.
Well, it's a big red carpet for us, we put out the big signs and all the folks that are in the movie like to dress up and they'll sign autographs and take pictures, and Dr. Mark and Dr. Michelle put this together for us, and we have like 3 big screens, and there's dinner, you have your selection of 3 different dinners, and it's all just goes to the Dr. Mark and Michelle's Hope International foundation. Now that with that, it's just a donation that what it does is it helps patients that come to see them that may not be able to normally afford their services, but helps to pay for those in need that need medical attention. And so it's a really great cause, and it's a really a fun movie. We're still working on it. When we get off, I got to go still put in sound effects and some other things and read through go through it again and again and again and again, so we make sure that it's as perfect as possible for everyone who comes sees it. And you can go to forgottenfortune.org and you'll find a link to where you can purchase the tickets, and
Perfect.
it's going to be a great night.
We will put that I will put that in the link for sure. So Forgotten Fortune, it's this Friday, December 5th, 6 o'clock. Is that correct?
Doors open at 6, and probably maybe you'll start about 7 once dinner's served.
Perfect. So dinner, and it's a family-friendly movie, so bring your family,
Yeah.
Renaissance Tulsa Hotel. And if people want to follow along, if they can't go, on Friday for whatever reason, how can they find the movie?
Well, it'd probably be a little while before our agent gets it wherever it ends up. Like our movie Wealthy Soul that we shot over a year ago just started streaming on Apple Plus and Amazon Prime. So it may be about a year before, because we had to, put it in film festivals, and then they take it all over the world to see if who's gonna license it and all that kind of good stuff. I'm sure that by this time next year, it'll be in all the places you're used to watching movies. I'm a person who studies film, so I have Amazon and I have Netflix and I have Hulu and all those things, and I'm always looking. And I would say that I would put any of these independent films, because I'll watch some movies on there that were made by bigger people or have bigger budgets, and they're not any more entertaining than what you see folks here making themselves. I just say that so you give us a chance and check it out, and you'll find out that, you get kind of a pretty good deal by watching and entertainment by watching some independent films made right here.
What have you watched recently that was made here that you really enjoyed?
Well, let's see, over the weekend, because one of our actresses has been in a couple of our movies, Lisa Fenimore. She did a movie called Hope's.
Hopes, Hollywood Guess.
Yeah, and it was really cute and just as good as any Hallmark movie you would watch. So it was definitely worth taking the time to spend and enjoy watching and celebrate, one of ours.
Thank you for that reminder. I haven't seen it yet, but I've definitely promoted it, and Lisa's awesome. And I remember watching them shooting that last year, and now it's out for us all to enjoy. And it was made in Oklahoma, and that's a perfect example. So we can watch Hope's Hollywood Christmas and see Lisa act and sing on camera
Yeah.
and giving
And I
great.
think it's on Amazon Prime. I think over the holidays, it might be even free, because I watched it free with my Prime accounts.
Here we go. I might have to ask her to be my next guest to talk about that. So, yeah, it's all
Yeah.
about supporting us here local so that we can have a thriving, sustainable career in Oklahoma as a creative. Amen to that. That's what I'm about. Awesome. Stevie, thank you so much. I hope that this podcast reaches people so that they go out and support your movies and the media that you're creating, because you've been doing it for a long time and we appreciate you.
Thanks.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching and listening to Behind the Scenes Oklahoma.
Won't you